Welcome to This Week. Jersey Jawdropper.
I am embarrassed and humiliated.
Chris Christie's make or break moment.
A person close to me betrayed me. I am a very sad person today.
This morning, brand new details on the investigations and the fallout, including...
We say no comment.
Scandal's real-life inspiration, crisis manager Judy Smith, Rudy Giuliani, at our Powerhouse Roundtable. Plus, Olympics alert, breaking details on new security warnings. Are our athletes safe? And pandemonium, Washington's newest star, ready for her close-up. All right here this Sunday morning.
From ABC News, This Week with George Stephanopoulos starts now.
Hello again. I'm Martha Raddatz. Great to have you with us. 2 days after New Jersey Governor Chris Christie's marathon press conference, the Bridgegate scandal is still swirling this morning. New Jersey Democrats are pushing to expand their inquiry beyond just the federal investigation. So what happens now, and how will it impact Christie's presidential prospects? We're covering every angle. Let's get started with the latest developments from New Jersey. ABC's Jim Avila is there now. Jim?
Good morning, Martha. During that nearly 2-hour news conference, Governor Christie answered just about every question, except for the critical one. How could this happen? Dangerously leaving that to his critics, the press, and federal prosecutors.
This is not the bombastic Chris Christie America knew so well, meekly walking down the town hall steps of Fort Lee on a humiliating apology tour. But so far, and the investigations have just begun, nothing in the more than 2,000 pages of documents posted by his political enemies have found the lie in this blanket denial.
I had no knowledge or involvement in this issue, in its planning or its execution.
What the documents do show is that his aides and appointees were monitoring the traffic disaster they had created with a smoking gun email, "Time for some traffic problems in Fort Lee." By noon of the first day of traffic Armageddon, Christie allies had been warned of the increased volume and congestion, and that emergency services had been seriously hampered.
People that are supposed to be protecting public actually impaired public safety.
The new documents show Fort Lee's pleas were ignored for 4 days, with Christie's press apparatus stonewalling, and only when the New York side of the bridge authority stepped in were lanes finally reopened. Quote, "We are going to fix this fiasco, and I will get to the bottom of this abusive decision." The governor now hoping the prompt dismissal of his deputy chief of staff, Bridget Ann Kelly, and his longtime political guru, Bill Stepien, can reverse the impression that the governor's brash style encouraged political vengeance.
I am who I am, but I am not a bully.
This week, Governor Christie will attempt to change the subject with his State of the State address on Tuesday, and then later in the week goes to Florida to fundraise for other Republicans, leaving behind all those state legislators to whisper about impeachment and the federal prosecutors to ponder any charges. Martha?
A lot to ponder, Jim. Thanks to you. Now the former mayor of New York and a friend of Chris Christie, Rudy Giuliani, is here. Mayor Giuliani, thanks for joining us. I want to go back.
Thank you, Martha.
I want to go back to September. 4 days, thousands of Fort Lee residents are stuck on that bridge. Chris Christie is the chief executive of that state. I can't imagine you, as New York mayor, not saying, what the heck is going on over there? Forget that traffic study. And yet Chris Christie didn't do that.
You know, Martha, that's always kind of simplistic after something like this happens. You know, how could it happen? How could you not have known? You know, how did President Obama not know about the IRS targeting right-wing groups, massive numbers of right-wing groups?
But this is traffic. This affects everybody.
Right?
This seems very different.
Well, that affects a lot of people, and the reality is things go wrong in an administration. And frankly, you know, he was in campaign mode at the time. During campaign mode, you miss a lot of things. You're not paying as much attention. We see that with Benghazi. I mean, I can give you plenty of examples. Every administration, every president, every mayor, every governor, something goes wrong below them, and then the press asks, "Gosh, how do they not know? How do they not realize?" The reality is, He says he didn't realize. He says he didn't know. I think it's pretty darn credible. He wouldn't make this blanket denial unless it's not true.
But
Plus,
we're talking, Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, we're talking about two different things. You're talking about him saying he didn't know there was any scandal involved in this. He had to know there was all that traffic.
Well, yeah, I'm saying you miss things. I mean, things happen in an administration. Things happen when you're running for re-election. After the fact, it seems like, how didn't they know? But the reality is you miss a lot of things when you're running a government that's as complicated as New Jersey, New York, or the United States. This has happened to many presidents, many governors, many mayors. It's happened to the present president at least 3 or 4 times where he said, I didn't know, and then the press says, gosh, how could he have not have known?
Well, let's talk about the culture of that office. Obviously, he's dismissed his aide, Bridget Ann Kelly, Bill Stepien, but what about the culture of that office? What does that say about Chris Christie, that they would think they could do something like that?
But this is what happens in political operations. I mean, people get wrong messages. It happens all the time. It happened, again, I go back to the IRS scandal. The people in the IRS thought President Obama wanted him to do this. President Obama didn't want him to do this. But they got the sense, because of that culture, that they were supposed to target right-wing groups. It was totally wrong. I think it was totally wrong for these people to have interpreted Chris Christie this way. But look, he's handled it the best way you can possibly handle it. He's held a press conference. He's flatly denied it. If for some reason it's not true, the man has put his political career completely at risk. If it turns out that there's some evidence that he knew about it, he's taken the complete risk that his political career is over. Don't think he'd do that if there's any suggestion he knew about this.
So you think this just goes away for Chris Christie? Have you talked to him?
Yes, I think it does just go away. But again, it depends on what happens, what facts come out. The other thing that's very impressive to me was, I think when this first came up, don't think he would have made a joke about it had he had any knowledge of it. Typically, when a politician is obfuscating something like that, they're going to get very careful. Plus, during the press conference, they're going to end up being careful with words like, I couldn't remember, I'm not sure, possibly, maybe. This was very, very definitive. So I'm pretty sure that this is going to go away. Obviously, it's going to take a while. There are going to be more inquiries. But ultimately, his entire governorship will be the thing that gets evaluated. This obviously will never be a plus, but I don't think it's going to be fatal.
The end of him. Okay, thank you very much, Mayor Giuliani. Now let's break down all the legal angles, including that federal investigation. Nightline co-anchor Dan Abrams joins us. Dan, the investigations that will ensue, how broad can they be? And can they go after any of Chris Christie's emails? Certainly haven't seen any of Chris Christie's emails in all of this.
Well, look, I think they're going to be able to get all emails that relate to the closure of those lanes on the bridge, whether they come from Chris Christie or anyone else in his office. Of course, Chris Christie says there are no emails that are relevant to that, so that's what we're going to have to see. But when it comes to this federal investigation, I don't think he's going to be as concerned right now about a possible federal crime. I don't see any possible federal crimes here. But what he is concerned about, or what he should be concerned about, is the investigation itself. The fact that there's a legislative investigation, there's a federal criminal investigation, and the question will be, what do they find in connection with that that could have political fallout? Meaning, do they find any correspondence, or do witnesses say something that contradicts what Christie said in the press conference? That would be my concern if I were him right now, rather than true legal. So it's the legal investigation that could lead to political fallout.
And I would think this could go on for a while, right?
Oh, it could go on many, many months. And look, and the problem with these types of investigations is they take on a life of their own. You start investigating one thing, and you start digging in, and lo and behold, you find something else, and you say, wait a second. Yes, we were just investigating the lane closures to start with, but look at what road this has taken us down. Look what else we found here. And then they begin moving on to a different kind of investigation. So those are the sorts of concerns you've got to have if you're Chris Christie or his aides.
Could be a long couple of months. Thanks, Dan.